Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. I hope you're still with us, and really thank you again for joining us today. Now back after the lunch break. I hope you had a good break. I did. And let's see now the third part of the Infoday, where we get really into the details of an application. And we will talk about the call rules, about the call conditions, about the general conditions, but we will also have some insights from the different aspects of the model grant agreement, for example, or communication, dissemination, and exploitation, an insight from our private members, and in the end, an intervention from the national contact points from the member states. So I hope you can still stay with us. I hope you're still interested. And without taking more time with introduction, now it's a pleasure to give the floor to Lionel Boyo. He's our call coordinator. So he was managing the whole Infoday. Thank you, Lionel, also for that. And he will manage all the evaluation and submission. So Lionel, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Mirella. Ladies, gentlemen, good afternoon. Indeed, I've been the call coordinator of the Clean Hydrogen JU for now 6-7 years, and it's a task from which I'm deriving a lot of pleasure. And you know what? My wildest dream is to make sure that all the proposals will be successful. But unfortunately, like in every call, there is 1-2 proposals that would be overlooking some key aspects. That could be eligibility criteria, that could be submission after the call deadline. These things that indeed make it difficult for this proposal either to be eligible or to be successful in the evaluation. It's even more important to look at this presentation because there were some changes from the shift Horizon 2020 to Horizon Europe, and I'm about to highlight these things later. The presentation is divided in 2 parts. First part, the rule for participation and the call condition. And then later, I will speak about the proposal submission and evaluation. The call 2022 of the Clean Hydrogen JU is following 2 sets of rules. The first one are the general condition from the general annexes of Horizon Europe. These includes subjects like admissibility, eligibility, procedures, documents, and so on and so forth. The general annexes of Horizon Europe apply mutatis mutandis, like for like, to the call 22 of the Clean Hydrogen JUs. There is no exception. Quite on the contrary, on top, in addition, the call is following the rules from the Work Programme 2022 of the Clean Hydrogen Joint Undertaking that is including some additional eligibility criteria, such as maximum contribution, the consortium composition, or the participation of African countries. What I'm about to give is an overview. It will give you the flavor of these legal documents. But the big disclaimer, if you want, is I advise you to read in full these 2 sets of documents. So let's go now for the general annexes of Horizon Europe. We consider the rules stipulate that a proposal is admissible when it is submitted electronically on the system on time. The button submit disappeared after the deadline, so after 5 o'clock on both deadlines. There is no need to press on it. It does not action anything. The proposal is admissible when it's readable, accessible, and printable. When it is complete, meaning it includes all the different parts, administrative data, legal data, and as well operational capacity of the partners. It must include a plan for the exploitation and dissemination of the results. If you follow the template, you will see an indicative number of pages for this plan. It is something to be kept in your proposal, to be included. The proposal consists of 2 documents, Part A, administrative budgetary information, and Part B, the technical description. There are some page limit to this Part B, depending on the type of action. You see them there, CSA 30 pages, RIA proposal 45 pages, EA proposal 70 pages. I'll come back in a moment about these acronyms, CSA, RIA, and EA. But a proposal is eligible when it is in line with the topic. So you can submit whatever you want in the platform. If it's not in line with the topic, it's out of the scope and it's not considered as eligible. And the focus must be exclusively on civil applications. There are some requirements for the consortium composition, and therefore for RIA and EA proposals, the consortium should include at least one independent entity established in a member state, and then at least two other independent legal entities from either the different member states or associated countries. For CSA, the rule is different. It's lighter, if you want, because the CSA proposal can be submitted by at least one legal entity established either in a member state or in an associated country. I'll go now to the different countries or international participation, if you want. Horizon Europe and the call 2022 of the Clean Hydrogen JU is open to the world, meaning that any entity established wherever on this planet can participate in the project, except the entities that are subject to EU restrictive measures, namely the EU sanctions. Yet, to receive the funding, to receive the money, the entities has to be established either in a member state and the overseas territories, in countries associated to Horizon Europe, and the agreements for accession or association to Horizon Europe are being signed. It's a bilateral discussion, negotiation, country with the EU. Entities established in the low and middle income countries, and there is a long list of them from Afghanistan to Zimbabwe, are as well automatically eligible for funding. Now, for all the other entities, it is not foreseen to be the case, but there are two exceptions. One, if it is foreseen by the topic or by the call that entities established elsewhere could get the funding, and this is the case this year with the topic 5.5, or when the Clean Hydrogen Joint Undertaking, based on the evaluation, the assessment by the evaluator, consider that this beneficiary funding is essential to implement the project work. But I would say, for any entities coming from the USA, Japan, Korea, these entities will not be eligible for funding, and therefore they have to explain how they will secure their participation in the project, how they will secure their funding in the project. Gender equality plan, something new from Horizon Europe. It's an additional eligibility criteria for certain entities, the public bodies, the research organization, higher education establishment from member states and associated countries must have this gender equality plan. In what does it consist? Well, the content is described there, is that the entities have in place gender equality in recruitment, work-life balance, things like that. And as a process, this gender equality plan must be signed by the top management, published on the website of the entities. There should be training, reporting about it. It's based on a self-declaration. So each participant in the proposal will have to declare when there are public bodies, research organization, and higher education in the member state or associated countries, that they have this gender equality plan in place. Yes. Other possible consideration from evaluators is the exclusive focus on civil application. Very simple. At the proposal stage, you will have to confirm you do not do any military application. Expert will validate. So a simple yes and no question. But then two other items: the do not significantly harm principle, and the robustness of the artificial intelligence-based system. Both aspects will be scored, looked at by the evaluator, and the criterion of excellence and impact for the do not significant harm. I'll come back to the criteria for the evaluation. Type of actions, 3 types. First one is RIA, Research and Innovation Action, which aim at developing product, processes, technology, and so on. That include some basic and applied research up to the level of validation at small-scale prototyping. Entities involved in RIA type of action are getting the funding of 100%, so 100% funding rate for all the beneficiaries in these proposals. Then second type of action is innovation action. So it goes a bit closer to the market, if you want. These activities aim at developing or improving product processes and test them, demonstrate them in large scale. The funding rate there is 70% for entities that are profit-making, and it goes to 100% of funding for non-profit legal entities. The third type of action, and the last one in this call of the Clean Hydrogen JU 2022, are the coordination and support actions, which cover everything else, everything but research and innovation activities. And this includes education, training, standardization, cooperation with Africa, for example. And there, the entities are getting the maximum funding rate of 100%. Technology readiness, TRL, are defined for each topic, and you have to answer from where you take the knowledge, from TRL at start, let's say TRL 3, up to where you will bring it at the end of the project, TRL 5, 6. It depends for each topic. Please make sure, when you submit your proposal, that you are responding to this TRL level. RIA is focusing on lower TRL. So in our call, 2022, it's from TRL 1 to TRL 6. Innovation action closer to the market, higher TRL, TRL 5 to TRL 8 in this call of 2022. There are 2 topics for which there are no TRL levels, and they are replaced by manufacturing readiness level, and the definition of this is provided. Was saying 2 topics. There are topic 1.4 and topic 4.1. In addition, coordination and support action have no TRL level, obviously. Annex C on the capacities. Financial capacity, in order to preserve the financial interest of the union when wiring or transferring the money to the coordinator of future projects. The coordinator of your proposal has to fill in a self-assessment at the proposal stage, which, based on some financial indicators, will give a score, an appreciation. Operational capacity now is scored by the expert based on the information in the proposal about qualification and experience of the staff, the list of past projects in the last 4 years, and the expert will simply have to respond to the question, will the consortium, has the consortium the capacity operationally to implement the task, or in exceptional cases, will the consortium get the operational capacity at the time the activities that require them will start. But needless to say here, you need to choose which partner you are going to team up with, because it will have an impact on the score of your proposal. Exclusion criteria, clearly any misrepresentation of information or entities that are subject to EU administrative sanction will be excluded. Regarding the evaluation, the scoring system, if you want, the award criteria, there was no change from Horizon 2020 to Horizon Europe. Still 3 award criteria: excellence, impact, quality, and efficiency of implementation. All of them scored from 0 to 5. 0 is null, 5 is excellent, and you need a minimum of 3 per criterion to be considered as you need a minimum of 3. So 3 times 3, that's 9. It's not enough. There is an overall quality threshold of 10 to be successful. I've finished with the general annexes, and now I move to the specific conditions that are introduced on top, in addition, from the work program 2022 of the call of the Clean Hydrogen JU. So there are of three types, additional eligibility criteria. The first one is the maximum contribution, indeed for 6 topics that I have not listed here, but they are included when you will read the topic content. There is a maximum contribution that can be asked, meaning if, as an applicant, you request even a cent of a euro more, the proposal is considered not eligible. You can always request less. It's a maximum, you cannot request more. Then, second additional eligibility criterion for 10 topics. Now, it's a consortium composition. It was said this morning by Mirella, the reasoning behind, that for these 10 topics, at least one of the partners should be a member either from the industry grouping, Hydrogen Europe, or from the research grouping, Hydrogen Europe Research. And finally, the other additional eligibility is for one topic, the topic 5.5, on the participation of African countries. So any entity established within the African Union can get the funding within topic 5.5 only. I go now to the second part of my presentation. It's about the submission and evaluation of the proposals. From the call closure, there is a succession of steps. First one is to look at the admissibility, eligibility of the proposal, allocate the expert to the proposal. Then each proposal is read by minimum 3 experts who will work individually, remotely, will write the assessment, scores, and comment. Then we organize a consensus meeting. The 3 experts are sitting around the table, be it physical or virtual, and will come to one set of comments, one set of scores. Then we do a review, panel review, where we looked at all the proposals, harmonize the scores and comment if need be, resolving some minority views in case there was no agreement between the experts, and then put all the proposals in a rank list. Then finalization, the rank list is taken by the Clean Hydrogen GU, and we do apply the other call condition rules for disbursing, let's say, or selecting the project in the main list that will receive funding, project that will be in reserve list in case additional funding is available will support the project, and projects that are unfortunately below all the thresholds and therefore rejected. This process is very important and it's based only on 2 documents, Part A and Part B of your proposal. Part A is everything embedded in the IT system from the funding and tender portal, from which you will have access for submission of your proposal from the 31st of March, so at the end of this month. And the Part B, which is, let's say, a free-floating document. It's a PDF that you will have to submit together with the Part A. But in there, please include as much visual information as you can. So pictures, graphs, diagram, tables, to make it easy for the expert to analyze and assess what you're writing. Here, my 2 cents advice is you should do the test of the educated partner. Let's imagine you have your partner, you bring the proposal. If he does not understand a clue what it is about, you can be sure your proposal is somewhat missing the point of analyzing or expressing why it needs to be supported at EU level. Skip this one. 8 months for time to grant. So that means from the moment of the call closure to the signature of a grant agreement, start of a project, there is maximum 8 months to do admissibility check, eligibility check, the evaluation itself, the grant preparation, and then the signature. It means your proposal should be as neat as possible and as close to a final project description. Experts will not recommend to change work packages, reallocate the budget, Transfer of funds between partners? No. If they have such recommendation to make, they will downgrade, if you want, or score lower the proposal because it does not reply, or it's not self-sustainable according to the evaluator. Final slide about independent experts. This year we launched, as the executive director, Mr. Bieberg, said, the greatest or the biggest call on hydrogen nearly on this planet with 300.5 million euro. We'll receive quite a lot of proposals. We need good quality experts and a big pool of experts to evaluate them. How to help us in this task? Very simply, go on the funding and tender portal. There is a tab, register as an expert. Click in there. We need expertise from all different fields, technical, but as well it could be on cooperation, it could be on business, it could be on project management. When we select the expert within the pool, we look at different criteria that are criteria so that we get a balance in terms of gender, balance in terms of geography, balance in terms of public-private sector, and we apply a rotation system so that we have new, fresh evaluator in this process every year. We do have as well one or more independent observer that will ensure that the process is conducted as per the rules. And obviously, if you are in a case of conflict of interest, we will not be in a position to select you as an evaluator. Last slide, some resources. The funding and tender opportunities portal will give you all the tools, all the information, and as Mirela said, in case you did not find an answer to your question in the funding and tender portal, do not hesitate to contact us, and we'll reply regularly as fast as possible. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Lionel. Thank you for, how can I say, really big effort to try to summarize for us, to digest for all of us and for all the attendants these complete rules of Horizon Europe. Yes, it's true that they were not changed much from Horizon 2020, but still it's a big effort to digest them for us, and I hope our audience is we'll have a good time reading all the details. Thank you very much again. Now it is my pleasure to introduce the next point on the agenda, and as a means of an introduction of that, just to clarify that I am not alone, me and my team, in doing all this. Kindly Bart introduced it at the beginning. He thanked me, but I cannot make it without Philippe and his team. So it is my pleasure to introduce Philippe Binet. He's the head of unit for legal and administrative issues in the Clean Hydrogen JU Clean Hydrogen Joint Undertaking, and he will introduce his team and his contribution to the call. Philippe.
Thank you very much, Mirela. Yes, indeed, it has to be said that the projects that will result of this call are, of course, supported by grant agreements. And the purpose of the presentation now will be to give you some outlines on what are the main elements related to legal and contractual aspects and to financial aspects. So I will not be very long, but I would just like to highlight as well that there will be sessions further in the process, as Lionel described just now. There will be other opportunities to get more in detailed information about the setup of the legal and contractual aspects of the contract of the grant agreements. And don't worry. Be reassured that there will be other opportunities to address in detail some questions that you may have. So without further ado, I will pass the floor to first Georgiana Busnozu, who is the legal officer of the Clean Hydrogen Joint Undertaking, and then to Athanasios Batsilas, who is financial officer, who will address the financial aspects. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Philippe, for your kind introduction of the members of your team. And again, my pleasure to have them with us, with my team, today for guiding our applicants in the first steps of a grant preparation and grant successful application. So, Georgiana, back to you.
Hi, good afternoon, everyone. My name is Georgiana Buznosu. I'm the legal officer of the JU. And I will do a short introduction into the legal framework of the future grant agreement and the future projects that we hope to have as a result of this call for proposals. To enter right into the topic, the first slide I would like to introduce to you is related to why do you have a grant agreement and why is it needed. Of course, at this stage in time, you will not have a grant signed because the grant will be only as a result of a successful proposal. But, however, it is important that some elements are already underlined at this moment in time so that you can reflect on it and include them into your proposal already. Now, the model grant agreement is a contract that you sign together with the JU as a granting, in fact, authority as a result of a successful proposal. The grant is already set up in very rigid terms as a result of the Horizon Europe regulation that states under Article 33 that the Commission, together with the member states, will draft the model grant agreement that shall apply throughout the program. So it's important that you keep in mind that this is not a negotiable contract, but it is a fixed terms contract to be taken as is. So if you have any questions or any doubts, it's already good to have a look at the model grant agreement available on the FTOP portal, so on the Funding and Opportunities Tender portal. It sets up already your rights, your obligations, and in terms of funding, what are the rules in terms of eligibility, ineligibility, what is the maximum grant amount, and so on and so forth. How can I participate in the grant agreement? There are several types of participation. The main type of participation, the most important one, and the one that represents the ideal scenario, is a beneficiary. So a beneficiary is the one who implements the work. Altogether, beneficiaries form a consortium. They are led by a coordinator, which is the main contact point with the granting authority. And they have, like Lionel just explained, the financial and operational capacity to carry out the tasks. Now, this is the ideal scenario, and we hope normally that all beneficiaries have this capacity to carry out the grant. However, in certain specific situations, under exceptions, you as beneficiary can also rely on third parties to implement the task. This can be an affiliated entity. For those who are familiar with Horizon 2020, this is a new terminology, but it is an old setup, meaning it's the previously linked third party, now called affiliated entity. You also have the third party providing contributions, the previously known as in-kind contributors, for free or against payment. You may rely on subcontractors to carry out, nota bene, only small parts of the action, or you can call upon associated partners. These are the previously known international partners or beneficiaries under Article 9 not receiving JU funding because they refer to entities who either do not want or are ineligible to receive JU funding. The structure of the grant. First of all, it's very important to know that it is an e-grant. So the Commission, the JU, and in general, the EU public administration is moving towards a digital administrative environment. And for this reason, also the grants are moving to a fully electronic environment. Not only the signature is it electronic, so we have a fully qualified electronic signature for the grant, which is the equivalent of the blue ink signature, but also the process in between is also fully digital. It is also a corporate structure, meaning it is commission-wide throughout the entire programs. It is no longer a grant that applies only to Horizon Europe. It is a grant that applies to all the funding programs that the Commission manages. because of its corporate structure, it has specific options and specific articles that are dedicated to the different programs. For this reason, you will find in Annex 5 some additional clauses that apply to Horizon Europe and consequently apply to the JU's call for proposals and the next grants. We'll go a little bit in detail in the following slide. The core part of the grant, so the main part before we get to the annexes, is comprised of a new data sheet. The data sheet is a very nice element that has been added in the sense that you will have already on the first front pages a complete overview over your grant, over the maximum grant, the total eligible costs, the start date, the end date, the beneficiaries, the special clauses that apply, if any optional articles, and so on and so forth. And then, of course, the core part made of several articles that are grouped in thematic chapters. The chapters are listed there. If you have like curiosity, it is available on the Funding and Opportunity Center portal to go into more details article by article. Now, following the core part, we have the Annex 5, which refers, of course, to security articles. This normally does not apply to our JU calls because this refers to classified information. Classified information is defined as such in a special regulation and refers to information, the disclosure of which would harm either the interest of the EU or of a member state. As such, is not so often encountered in our calls. However, okay, the article will already be there for any possibility that might happen. In terms of ethics, that is greatly supported, and you know there's only ethical research and innovation that is a part of the framework program. A new part in gender mainstreaming under values, the same intellectual property rights that apply with the results that pertain to the beneficiaries, communication, dissemination, open science, and visibility. Nota bene, open science has now become a wider framework with everything that implies from open access to publications to research data plan that you need to add, and so on and so forth. And then some specific rules for carrying out the action, where we have also some specific rules for the JU only. In terms of novelty, what does the Model Grant Agreement, the so-called MGA, brings? It's a streamlined MGA. As mentioned, you now have streamlined content that will be common for all EU funding programs, with a data sheet that will bring you forward the main grant options. There are simplified provisions on personnel costs, and these will be further explained by my colleague Stanos, who will follow just right after, as well as the usual cost accounting practices and the provisions addressing prototypes. You will also have an improved annotated model grant agreement, the so-called AGA, which has annotated details for every article in the model grant that is now web-based, easier to read, and more accessible for everyone. In terms of reporting, of course, you would know, because this has been greatly publicized, the key impact pathways that are a new modernized way of reporting and monitoring the actions. Some reporting requirements after the end of the project that go hand in hand with the stronger focus on dissemination and exploitation. As you know, for example, exploitation has to go on for up to 4 years after the end of the project, linking with existing data where this is possible. And of course, some templates that you will see later on as we go through the grants, should your proposal be successful. Now I come back to the streamlined model of the grant agreement, and the fact that not only that will it make it easier for you to harmonize should you apply into the different funding programs and so on, but it will bring forward the possibility to have synergies in a more strategic way, because there will be only one legal framework and one legal document, and all the interpretation will be streamlined, the terminology will be streamlined, and this will give the possibility to facilitate further the synergies. In terms of synergies, there's one more item that I would like to bring forward, because you know it is encouraged for the flagship project, and for the 3 projects, in fact. And I would like to further underline the fact that there is one specific rule that you need to already account for, and namely that if you consider having contributions from 2 different funding programs, one being our program and the other, for example, being CEF, one cost expenditure item cannot be put under the same programs. So the different expenditures need to be split across the 2 actions. And with this, I finalize my presentation. You have on the last slide where you can find additional information. Of course, it's the FTOP, the Funding and Tenders Opportunities portal, under reference document, an additional Horizon Europe presentation, one dedicated to the model grant agreement further in depth, and a dedicated fact sheet on open science. And with this, I thank you very much. And if any questions, Slido is there for your use.
Thank you very much, Georgiana, again for again a challenging effort from your side to give us the novelties, at least of the model grant agreement, legally from a legal point of view. And it's now time to look more into the financial issues, more than legal to the financial. And I have the pleasure to introduce Thanos Batsilas here, one of our experienced financial officers, senior financial officers, and who will give us a few more insights on the novelties. Thanos, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Mirella. Hello, everyone. With this small 10 minutes, more or less, presentation, of course, I don't aspire to cover all the financial rules governing the whole program. My name is Thanos Batsilas, and what I can do for you, however, is to present some basic information needed at this particular proposal stage, and when needed to underline some differences with the previous program, like actually the legacy Horizon 2020. Change like that?
Yeah.
Okay, too much. Sorry, not experienced. Okay. Actually, you will need to budget costs for resources, items, and for this you will need to fill in a budget table, but also some to indicate resources in the narrative part of the proposal. Let's go through the categories applicable to our program one by one. First of all, personal costs. For RIA projects, you know that this can be the major cost category. So you will need to indicate in the relevant table of Part B the effort to be used in the different work packages. This effort needs to be expressed in person months, and then you have to convert, translate, say whatever you want, budget this effort in the budget table. You can budget costs for employees, the typical employees hired by your organization, but also for natural persons with a direct contract, also for seconded persons by third party against payment, and also if there are any SME owners or natural persons not receiving salary, the grant agreement also accommodate for these costs. Something really new that you have to take into account while budgeting costs at proposal stage is the daily rate. Actually, we moved from the hourly rate in Horizon 2020 to daily rate. So for the categories 1, 2, and 3, all you need is to calculate the daily rate. This is quite easy. You take the actual gross costs. That means that not only the salaries that we get in our pocket, but also some social security contributions, taxes, and other obligatory costs, etc. And you divide this by 215 days, and you obtain the daily rate, which multiplied by the days that you budget that you need for the action, then you have the budgeted personal costs. For category 4, the SME owners or natural persons not receiving salary, the action, the Marie Sklodowska-Curie action provides for an automated calculation. So if you belong in this category, you will make use of this unit cost. Next category, cost category, is the subcontracting costs, and as my colleague Georgiana before mentioned, you can subcontract costs for goods, works, or services, but they must be action tasks defined as such in the narrative part of your proposal. Another important category, especially for the innovation actions, is the purchase costs. This category includes with simple traveling costs like tickets, accommodation, subsistence, equipment, durable equipment, other goods, works, and services like consumables, promotion, dissemination, translation, certificates, etc. And for all these categories, you should budget the estimated costs. For equipment costs, in particular, you have to budget the estimated depreciation costs or the estimated leasing costs, or this is not quite, it's a new thing, and as Mirela mentioned earlier this morning, if the project is innovation action, and equipment is included in the list of equipment, allowing full costs claim, then you can budget this full costs. Of course, if this is also in accordance with your accounting system. So I really encourage you, for those that they want to submit innovation action proposals, to have a look in this specific list and check the possibilities of budgeting full capitalized costs. Next slide is on internally invoiced goods and services. There is a small change here compared to Horizon 2020. Now must be a call condition so that these costs are claimed. And we have done this for those that they would like to claim these unit costs. These unit costs, actually, most of the time it's self-produced consumables, but not only. There is one quite a big list that can be consulted. And a new novelty here is that you will not get the, automatically 25% flat rate for the indirect cost of this unit cost, but you can calculate the actual indirect costs to attribute them in these unit costs. On in-kind contributions, a third party may make resources like personnel, equipment, etc., other goods, works, services, make available these resources to a beneficiary free of charge. The applicant, however, has to budget this cost under the respective cost categories. And you can see these cost categories in the table that appears in Part B. Associated partners. This is equivalent category of Horizon 2020 international partners, partners not eligible for funding or eligible for funding but not requesting funding. They don't sign the grant agreement, but the consortium needs to ensure the assigned tasks are implemented. Very good description of these tasks are needed in the narrative part of the proposal, and for information purposes only, the applicant may include estimated costs under the category other source of financing. Yes, I think I'm done. Further info to be found, as usual, in the Funding and Tenders Opportunity portal. Of course, we are here for you in case of any clarification. And with this, I wish you good luck with your proposals.
Thank you very much, Thanos. Thank you. Thank you very much with few insights also on the financial side and all the novelties that we have now with the Horizon Europe model. I hope we can still get questions. The questions will the question and answer session is in about an hour. When we will look at all the questions we receive for the entire session. And now that we had a bit of insight into the, how can I say, legal and financial, I mean, how can I say others than that? Let's go back to my team and let's look at other aspects of the proposal. So in addition to the model grant agreement, to the technical side that you heard this morning, of course, you have to take into consideration other issues. I mentioned them in the morning in my presentation. They are linked to the bigger impact of the proposal. We need to take them into account. A successful proposal, a successful idea, a successful EU project cannot be there just by having a brilliant technical idea without having a proper dissemination, exploitation, or even communication. So we move into these aspects now, and I would like to give the floor now to our dissemination exploitation officer, Petros Karatsias, who will be then followed by one of the communication officers, but I will not spoil it now. I will make a proper introduction to her later. So Petros, first you on dissemination exploitation.
Thank you very much, Mirella. Good afternoon. I will try to help you navigate a bit between the different notions of dissemination, exploitation, and maybe to distinguish a bit with communication as well, and of course to help you also understand what is new in Horizon Europe in terms of these aspects. So. As you already know, as you probably already know, in Horizon Europe, increased importance has been given to impact. So the Commission is trying to find a way to ensure it, and the tools in order to go safely to this direction is dissemination exploitation with help of communication, of course. The better dissemination exploitation a project has, the greater impact could create, and of course the greater value for the funding they are getting. And this is also reflected in the legal basis of the model grant agreement. As you can see there, it stipulates that the beneficiaries must disseminate their results as soon as feasible when they get them, and of course to take measures aiming to ensure exploitation of their results, either by themselves or by other third parties or beneficiaries. And when we're talking about exploitation of results, we are talking about results that come either during the funding period or even 4 years after, up to 4 years, or even beyond after the end of the project. So let's have a closer look on what we are talking, what do we mean when we're talking about results. So results means any tangible or intangible effect of the action we have. It can take numerous forms. As you can see in the right, it can be data, publications, software, reports, policy recommendations, and etc. And of course, it can address to different target audiences: research communities, industry, civil society, or even the policy making. All results are important, but the most important of all are the key exploitable results, the results that if we manage to exploit, we can create the major impact of our action. So, so about maximizing impact. So the main tools we have, as already mentioned, is communication, dissemination, exploitation. Communication, as you can see, starts with the start of the project and ends with the end of the project. But dissemination exploitation is something different. Dissemination exploitation practically starts with the first results of the project, and it continues far beyond the end of the project, as we already said. And the thing is that in order to be prepared to have a good plan and be efficient in this action, we need to start even from the planning of the project, from the proposal, to try to have a good plan. As you can see here, communication is about project and results, and it addresses to multiple audiences. And this is the main difference with the dissemination. Dissemination is different. With dissemination, the project aims to make the results visible. It is about their results. And they are trying to make them visible to audiences that can make use of those results. And then it comes exploitation, where we acknowledge all the key exploitable results we have from the action during and after the funding period, and finally we're trying to make use of them and create the impact that we discussed already. To help you a bit clarify more about the two notions, you can imagine that dissemination is like pushing the results to the right audiences, to the audiences, to third parties or beneficiaries that could make use of the results. And while exploitation is pulling practically the results, in our activities, in other activities, we are trying to get to benefit from their added value and decrease the overall added value of the funding. Dissemination exploitation, it is not only about obligations, it is also about opportunities for the projects and for the partners. With these activities, you can attract new talents in your team. You can also seek international and interdisciplinary collaboration. You could access to other funding opportunities or generate a new source of income. And also, very important, you could increase your visibility and your prestige as a researcher or an institution or an entity by contributing to the societal goals and to or to the policy if it is relevant for you. So we need to have a dissemination and exploitation strategy for our project, and the way to implement it is through a good dissemination exploitation plan. So you have to keep in mind that it is an obligation to have a first version of dissemination exploitation plan in the proposal stage. It is an admissibility condition, and its quality will be evaluated as part of the impact criterion. Also, you have to keep in mind that if your proposal is successful, then you will have to provide a fully fledged dissemination and exploitation plan in the first 6 months of the project. And of course, keep in mind that you will need to periodically update it if necessary, and at least once before the end of the project. That is the most important, the most significant parts of the things related to dissemination and exploitation that you need to keep in mind. There are also things that has to do with the use of Horizon Results Platform and other aspects that we can focus more if in the next stages. But one last thing that you need to keep in mind is that, as we already said, dissemination and exploitation continues after the end of the project. In the proposal stage, you will have, apart from describing the dissemination exploitation activities in part 2, in section 2 of part B, you will have also to fill out a set of tables, the impact canvas. The impact canvas is practically a summary of this section, and there you need to present the key elements of your project impact pathway, and of course the measures to maximize your impact. As you can see, you need to link the specific needs you are trying to address with your project, with the expected results you are going to have, and then propose the necessary dissemination, exploitation, and communication measures, identify the target groups, the outcomes, and of course, finally describe what will be the impact of your action. This will be an intrinsic, an important part of your proposal. In order to maximize the efficiency of your dissemination exploitation, you need to keep in mind some critical aspects. First of all, you need to have to consider the capacity and the role of each consortium member. You need to consider what will be the necessary expertise to get along with all these aspects, with all these activities. As regards the measures, you need to ensure that they are proportionate to the scale of the project and that they contain concrete actions according to a draft timeline during and after the end of the project. And apart from all that, you need also to consider your target audiences. You need to reflect on what will be the function of the proposed target groups and how they could contribute to the maximization of the impact of your action. And of course, to identify and choose the channels to interact with this target group. And of course, follow-up of the plan is one of the most important things. Finally, the Commission, the Research and Innovation family, is providing external support in order to help you in your dissemination exploitation activities. So they have created an ecosystem of dissemination exploitation tools and services. To start with, Horizon Results Booster is a bundle of services that can help you from even from revising your dissemination exploitation strategy and plan for your project, and going even with to help you with your exploitation with specific exploitation activities you would like to have, like business plan or go-to-market activities, etc. Horizon Results Platform is an open channel in which you can upload your results and disseminate them to the right audiences. Also, Innovation Radar is another open platform when you can make visible your innovations and yourself as innovators. And I think this is it on my side. Oops, sorry. This is it on my side. Back to you, Mirela.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Petros. Thank you very much for the nice summary of the D&E dissemination and exploitation activities required all the time. Again, I need to underline once again the importance of these actions. Please pay attention to this. I know that for researchers, for innovators, it's more important to look at the topic, to look at how the project it's going to look, and then maybe underestimate the efforts that you have to put in dissemination exploitation, and you will see in a moment in communication. These are very important measures you have to consider. You have to put resources aside for that, and we expect from the template of the proposal, we expect at least 5 pages of a draft plan for dissemination and exploitation and communication. That plan needs to be there from the application phase, from the proposal. Please keep that in mind because, like Petros already mentioned, and I think Lionel too, this will be evaluated under the impact of the proposal. So that the proposal will be considered as not having an impact if a plan is not existing for D&E and communication, or if it's very poorly addressed. So please pay attention to that. Again, this is the compulsory plan that we need in every single application to justify the impact of our funding and the impact of your efforts. So with that, I would like to now move into the communication and give the floor to Lara Orlandi. She is one of our communication officers. And she will also guide you through the communication plans and a bit of, I think it was a very good idea, Lara, from your side, to also underline to the new applicants our new visual identity. because I think at least what we notice from many people, people are not used to our new name and to new identity. So, Lara, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Mirella. So yes, my name is Lara and I'm a communication officer at the Clean Hydrogen Partnership. And I would like to explain you why communication is really important for your project. It's basically the lifeblood of your projects. Don't look too much at the text. I would like you to focus on the symbols. So the first symbol, the tick. In order to have a successful proposal, you really need to have communication and communication activities as part of your proposal. This is essential. And it's one of the admissibility criteria, and it will be also one of the award criteria. So you will be scored upon it. So don't consider it already from the start. Then I would like you to look at the little circle. It signifies circularity. And what it means is that communication is important throughout the lifespan of the project. So basically, even now, when you're preparing the proposal, already start thinking which measures you want to have, what would you like to communicate. Then throughout the proposal, you will have to communicate, and you will also have to have a detailed plan. Within 6 months, we will also ask you to really update this plan, and throughout the project to periodically let us know what you plan, even after the project is finished, to really present and promote the results to the larger public. And then, as we all know, the best things in life are for free, but this is not the case for communication. You really need a dedicated budget for it. And already now at the proposal stage, you should think about what you want to do. For instance, you might need to have assistance for drafting a press release. Of course, creating a nice webpage takes money. Events are very cost intense, graphic design. So please already put this in your dedicated budget. Then let me get a little bit, let me get a little bit more concrete on what a good communication plan is. So one of the keywords is strategy, I would say. So really try to think strategically, what are your objectives throughout the project, because these projects last, of course, a couple of years. So it's always good to have a concrete timeline and describing really in details what you plan. Of course, you can adapt this as you go along. Then what I think is really important is to define the main messages and the main key messages which you want to transport. And always try to think of an audience in mind. I know most of you are engineers, but our aim is not engineers talking to engineers. You should always try to talk to people like me, basically the regular public, let's say. And one of our target really is to target society as a whole, non-specialists. This is very important. I like the guy on the right, which says it's not all about content, it's about stories. It's not only about stories, but it's about great stories. So really try to create a good narrative for your project. Ultimately, I think that the EU program and all our EU-funded projects are, of course, really a gold mine for results, for practices, and this should all be at the disposal of the European citizen and should not be kept from them. Then I'll get even more concrete. I mean, here's some examples what you could include in your communication plans. For instance, you could have press releases planned on major milestones. Then, of course, you can plan a number of events. I mean, this really depends a little bit on your project. You can have a dedicated website. I think this would be really a good idea for all of you to have in the first 6 months, because as we know, when we want to know some information, we always directly go to the webpage, which should be appealing. For that, again, you need some budget dedicated. Then nowadays, I think we live in an area of social media, which is really ubiquitous. So you should think of having Twitter, LinkedIn, maybe YouTube. And then I think you should also think visually, because as we know, we are all really attracted by pictures mostly. So you should think of producing photographs, but I think even videos. And here at the side, you see proportionality. This is a very important aspect. I mean, we are aware that, for instance, if you're a very small research project, your objectives will be a bit different than for a big flagship project. But for big flagship projects, like for instance, electrolyzers or hydrogen valleys, we really expect you to have a concrete plan to reach the public. And for instance, an idea would be to make a video, also to buy some airtime on local news channels. So all of this you could think about. Then let me go on a little bit to wrap up. So maximizing communication, sharing is caring. What I mean with it is that we can really help you with communicating to the larger public. So please let us know, inform us in advance what you plan. We will also ask you yearly in a survey to communicate to us a little bit what you plan throughout the year. But it's good always to keep us in the loop. When you have a press release planned, we can have a quote. If you have events, we're very happy to send somebody from us or to promote it for our channel. For instance, we have a LinkedIn account with 23,000 subscribers. We have a newsletter with over 20,000 subscribers. So we can really help you amplify your messages. And then I would like to very briefly present to you our new logo. As Mirella said, we had a new mandate where we changed our name, our visual identity, our logo. We have a new webpage. I would like to present to you what is the background a little bit of this logo. You can see the spiral, which stands for sustainability and circularity. And then in terms of colors, we used a lot of green and blue, which of course have symbolize nature, which we're close to. But then you will also see these dots where you have exactly the blue and the yellow of the European flag, which really wants to underline the European nature of our institution. And what I like the most is that all these dots, they basically symbolize our partnership in an abstract way. So basically what we really have to do is connecting the dots, industry working together with research institutions, with the institutions, with the European institutions, and together with us to make this partnership work. And then let me go on. In terms of the name, nomen est omen, so we would like to really remind you that the name is Clean Hydrogen Partnership. Also, Clean Hydrogen Joint Undertaking is absolutely correct. It's more the legal name, but we really kindly ask you not to use any acronyms, not to use, for instance, CHP, which means California Highway Patrol, and has nothing to do with us. I know among the engineers, micro CHPs also rings another association, but please don't use CHP or CH, which means Switzerland. Let's just stick to partnership, or if you really are lazy, you can also say JU, which is absolutely correct. And then I want to have a very practical slide. It's almost my last. So basically, we should be really proud in our projects that the projects are funded by European money, and we want to show also to the public what we are doing. And this is why it's really important to have the correct branding. Just look at the different arrows. There are 4 elements. You have to have our logo, then you have to have the co-funded, include the right disclaimer, and you can of course also consult our new guidelines, which I just put on the webpage. So for any doubts, just consult the guidelines or ask us. I know that the logo is very colorful, which is nice, but sometimes on blue backgrounds, for instance, it doesn't work so well. So you could use the black one, for instance. But this is up to you, and if you have any questions, you can always consult us. And again, for the branding, it's not only about communication material, which should always be branded, but of course, we also fund a lot of HRSs, cars, vehicles, and so on. And also there, we should always make sure to be very proud about these projects and about what we are funding, and to have the correct branding as it is indicated here. This was my last slide, actually. So here you can see all our sources, also the ones which Petro mentioned, to dissemination. If you have any questions or suggestions, please let us know. Here are our email addresses. And apart from that, I wish you a really successful proposal and hope to be in touch soon then.
Thank you very much, Lara. Thank you. Really, really helpful, I hope, for our applicants, our new applicants, and why not for the existing ones? Because we still have to sometimes, correct some acknowledgements or some improper use of our new name. So thank you very much, Lara. Now let's go even deeper when talking about reporting and monitoring. And you have to be aware from the beginning that, like I said in the morning, every single one of our projects contribute to the success of the GU, to the success of the EU, to creation of a hydrogen economy. And we will, from the beginning, try to justify why we have supported a specific project and how a specific technology has performed or contributed to the bigger picture. And how can we do that? We can do that in a qualitative way, but I think the best is to do it in a quantitative way by monitoring the different key performance indicators. And Kostis here with me, Kostis Sakelaris, our knowledge management officer. He is in charge of the knowledge management team, and he will help us with such a challenging job, Kostis, to really monitor the whole effort of the program. So, Kostis, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much, Mirella. Indeed, it will be something challenging, especially considering that the new program, the Horizon Europe program, puts a lot more emphasis on the monitoring of the program. Therefore, we need also your help, because data will be crucial for this. We will explain in the next slides why it is important and how we will be doing our data collection exercise. But first, let me quickly start with what we're doing as part of the knowledge management, because in general, this is a relatively vague term, you can say quite open. So the main activity is exactly what Mirella said. It relates to the program and technology monitoring through KPIs, so trying to see how we're progressing, both for the program and in terms of technology. This is supported, but as a separate exercise, by our annual data collection. This concerns our projects, data collection from the projects, which contributes to the annual program review that we perform with the help of JRC and the report that we publish at the end of each year. You can find on our website all the previous annual program reports. And I think this is a good indicator to see the work that we are doing and how things are progressing in the hydrogen sector. Of course, it's not just data from projects, it's also external data. And then we're supporting the Fuel Cell and Hydrogen Observatory, which includes a lot more data. And we plan to further enhance it as possible. And activities where we're trying to provide input to policy, because policy is crucial, and decision makers need to know the results from projects, because this can help form policies, future policies, and possibly identify problems that may arise in the future and try to address them earlier. So this is a very important action. All these actions are supported, in most of these actions, we're supported by JRC. And with targeted studies, part of them are performed also by JRC. The overall goal, considering all the knowledge that the JU has gathered in its predecessors, but also that we plan to gather in its current form, is to become the European Hydrogen Knowledge Hub, because all this knowledge needs somehow to be gathered, better structured, and be accessible to everybody, so that it can serve the entire hydrogen community. So data is very important. And therefore, we need your help, and it's very important for you to understand why we need all this data. It's to support all these different actions, starting from the most relevant to the Infodays that we have right now, which is basically providing input to topic definitions for the new calls for proposals, understanding where are the gaps, understanding how we're progressing, where we want to go forward. But of course, also monitoring our KPIs, which is very important, and it's also an obligation for us. We also want to use them for benchmarking reasons, which could be both compared, for example, to other energy carriers, to other parts of the world, and generally to understand how things are evolving. But as we said before, also as input into policy making. Our stories and messages that also Petros briefly explained and Lara explained before their importance need this kind of data. We need data to make them more concrete. So again, we need them for this reason. And of course, data, and most importantly, I need to justify the funding. And because we have to justify why we're here and why we're doing this. In general, the data will be considered for us public. But of course, many of you may say, look, this is sensitive, we don't want to share it. You still need to provide the data to us. But we can declare them as confidential. I mean, it will be assessed by us, but it can be considered as confidential, in which case they will only be used for internal purposes, for example, in the original form, so for example, for our KPIs, and they will all be used only aggregated and anonymized. So there's no, you should not worry about losing this confidentiality. Is it an obligation? Well, I'm not going to go through the slide, but I'm just going to provide you some reference to tell you simply, yes, it is an obligation. But for us, we do have to collect the data. This is mentioned in several parts of our funding regulation, the Single Basic Act, but also it's mentioned in the Model Grant Agreement and in our annual work program, where clearly the projects do have to provide the information needed for different purposes, and especially to contribute to the monitor framework of the Clean Hydrogen JU. How do we perform this data collection? And now the focus is strictly on the side of the projects. So this is the annual data collection exercise. The annual data collection exercise takes place annually. That's why it's annual. And it takes place currently in the month of March. It holds about a month. The projects are requested to define the persons who will be submitting this data. And then the data are submitted through two platforms. One is through the Trust platform, which focuses on technology KPIs and deployment data. It includes both descriptive and operational data, and it's mainly used to inform our KPIs plus the progress of technology. Since this is more quantitative data, we also have another platform through AU survey, a questionnaire basically, where we gather complementary data to Trust, which may relate to the progress, the impact, the state of the art, and dissemination and communication activities, and other elements which are also important for us. All these data are gathered, and then they become the basis, together with project deliverables, for the program review, which is performed by JRC. The JRC goes through the data, it also analyzes it with our help, and then this leads basically to the annual program review report, which is published at the end of the year, and is presented in the program review days. Focusing a bit more on Trust. Why? Because, okay, the EU survey is just a questionnaire, so this is relatively simple. The Trust process is a bit more complicated, and this is because it has to do with technology data. So, as we said, each project names specific data providers, which have to complete these templates, so one can think questionnaires. They have about a month, each project has about a month to complete the questionnaires, and then they submit it through Trust. Then it's the turn of the project officers. The project officers, responsible for each respective project, check the data and try to validate it. They cannot change the data, but they have to check if the data are accurate, if there are mistakes, or maybe if more information can be provided. After this process of validation completes and may require a couple of iterations with the projects, then the annual data collection ends, and then we move to the part of the analysis, where both us, as the program office, the knowledge management team, and JRC analyze the data and try to make both useful conclusions, which will be used in the program review, as we mentioned before, but also be used as important feedback to the monitoring framework. As we said in the beginning, and Mirella mentioned before, and especially in the morning, the monitoring framework of the Clean Hydrogen Partnership, it's much more ambitious and demanding than in the previous years. As you can see, we have different dimensions, starting from the usual, what used to be the past, the horizon, the key impact pathways. So this is based on the continuous reporting, to the technology progress KPIs. So this is what we used to have in the MOP of the previous FCH. Now it's in the SRIA. But now we also have other indicators related to the partnerships. So there we try to, the Commission is trying to identify synergies and useful information between partnerships and try to provide this information also for the member states. But, and possibly more important for us, it's a set of indicators specific to our partnership, which try to monitor our objectives, the objectives that are described in the Single Basic Act. And Mirella presented in the morning our general objectives, but of course we also have specific and operational objectives. So there's a large number of objectives. As this is quite complicated, this set of objectives have been translated into a strategy map, which basically tries to link the different levels of this objective from the operational level, so where we put the resources and where we put the actions, which lead then to specific outcomes, and these are in effect the results of the projects, which then in turn contribute to specific impacts at a higher level, and at a macro level help EU policies in certain areas. So for example, if we support climate neutral and sustainable solutions in the hard-to-abate sectors, this can help limiting the environmental impact. This will reduce greenhouse gas emissions and, of course, help us achieve our climate ambition, the European climate ambition. This is very important because this strategy map, as you can see, is monitored through a large set of KPIs, and these KPIs feed on your data. So it's not just technology progress, but we really need the data in order to monitor the program basically through this strategy map and the associated KPIs. Therefore, we strongly urge you to assist us in this big effort that we have. And of course, we're there for you. We will support you and help you, provide any clarification that you may need. And we hope that this new exercise will also be successful this year. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Kostis. Again, I think it was a challenging job to present such a challenging theme that you have in a few slides. Huh? And for the audience and for the applicants to our call 2022, keep the strategy map in mind, huh? Because you will see it from now on for the next 7 to 10 years. You will see the strategy map more and more. Each project, each proposal that now you are writing will contribute to any piece of the puzzle that Kostis just showed to you. So you will hear from us asking to report different data, performance data of the technology, but also maybe coming from data on number of publication or data on number of patents. These are also data. These are also achievements of the project, which will contribute to every single piece of the puzzle. So thank you again, Kostis. And pay attention also to this aspect. Good. I think we finished with the contribution from my team and Philippe's team, like I said at the beginning. I think now we have time for 2 more presentations, and I have the pleasure to have with us today the 2 representatives of the private members from Hydrogen Europe, Michael Diderik, and he's online with us. I hope, Michael, you are there and you can hear me. And of course, after that, he will be complemented by Luis Mazurkiewicz. I hope I pronounce well your names, although we know each other for a long time, but I apologize if I don't do it well. And they will present to you, like I promised in the morning, they will give you more information about our private members, membership of Hydrogen Europe Research. So please pay attention to this. And first, Michael, the floor is yours. No, Luis?
Yeah, it's me.
Luis, you are first. Okay, sorry, I missed that. Okay, go.
Yeah, good. Thank you, Mirella. So I'm Louis Mazurkiewicz from Hydrogen Europe Research. I'm the innovation manager in our association. I'll give you a brief description of what we do. So basically, Hydrogen Europe Research wishes to participate to the achievement of the carbon neutrality objective that the EU has set itself by 2050. And by that, we support the European hydrogen industry, as well as ensure high-level research in Europe. And this mission is based on the 4 pillars you can see on the screen. First is the development of second-generation hydrogen technologies. The second is on development of the relevant infrastructure in order to test and to validate these technologies for them to enter into the market. We also promote the methodology that is sound, is scientific for the evaluation of the carbon footprint of hydrogen fuel cell technologies. And finally, we also focus on education, so reskilling, upskilling, in view of having a dedicated European workforce for when hydrogen technologies will be more widespread in the future. So our members compose the General Assembly, and this General Assembly votes and elects the Executive Board, which is composed of 10 members. So our President, our Vice President, which is also the Treasurer, our Head of External Affairs, as well as our 7 technical committee leaders. And the Executive Board supervises the Secretariat, which is composed of 3 full-time employees, myself and my colleagues Simona and Julia. And Simona, Julia and I, we are responsible for the day-to-day operation of the association, and we're based here in Brussels. So at Hydrogen Europe Research, we have 103 members that are spread out across 25 countries in the EU and in associated countries. These members are split more or less 50-50 between higher research establishments, so universities, and research organizations. And within our membership, we have over 500 scientists who participate in our activities in the Clean Hydrogen Partnership, but also in our policy working group and in our skills working group. So as you know from today, we participate in the Clean Hydrogen Partnership alongside the European Commission and Hydrogen Europe. And as you know as well, so this partnership will dedicate 1 billion of EU public funding to research and innovation topics. And this funding will have to be matched by ourselves in Hydrogen Europe through in-kind contributions. In terms of how we work at Hydrogen Europe Research, so we share some technical committees and roadmaps with Hydrogen Europe, the industry grouping. You can see the technical committees here. They range across the whole hydrogen value chain, so from production to storage, transport and distribution, and the different hydrogen end users, so for transport applications or heat and power. And we also have some cross-cutting technical committees that deal on issues regarding safety, sustainability, but also supply chain and hydrogen valleys. And finally, just going to quickly a bit more detail of what we do other than the Clean Hydrogen Partnership at Hydrogen Europe Research. So as I was saying, we participate in this partnership, and our members are actively involved in the elaboration of the topics that are included in the annual call for proposals that were presented today, as well as the identification of the priorities that lead to these topics. But we also have a policy working group where we discuss with our members policy topics of interest to our community. And from this, we draft some position papers. And our latest one was released in February 2022. So if you wish to have a look at it, it's available online on our website, as well as on our LinkedIn page. And secondly, we also have a skills working group that has been launched following has been created following the launch of the European Pact for Skills. And this working group is also in common with Hydrogen Europe. And basically, the aim of this group is to reflect on the topic of skills, training, and education in the field of hydrogen and fuel cells. And finally, we also manage the data stream on education and training in the Fuel Cells and Hydrogen Observatory. So if you're interested in becoming a Hydrogen Europe Research member, Here are the criteria that you need to fulfill. First of all, obviously, you should be conducting research on fuel cell and hydrogen technologies. Then you should be based in the EU or in an associated country, and you should be independent from industry. So you shouldn't be owned or managed by industrial stakeholders. If you fulfill these three criteria, then you either have to be a non-profit organization, a university, a public research organization, or a federation or an umbrella organization. The membership fees for full membership of €3,500 a year, and associate membership cost €1,000 a year. And on this, I'd like to thank you and pass the floor to Michael from Hydrogen Europe, who'll give you also a little presentation on what they do. And if you wish to get in touch, here are details that you'll be able to retrieve once the presentations will be available online. So thanks, and I'll pass the floor to Michael, and thank you, Mirella, for giving me the floor.
Thank you very much, Michael. Are you ready to step in? We will put the presentation in a moment. Do you hear us?
I can hear you perfectly, yes. Thank you, Louis. Thank you, Mirella.
Perfect. Floor is yours.
Thank you very much. Good afternoon, everybody. So very short introduction from Hydrogen Europe. There are slides that have been already described, so I will be quite brief. Can we move on to the next slide, please? Thank you. So we understood it today. The Clean Hydrogen Partnership is a partnership between private partners, Hydrogen Europe Research, my colleague Louis, and Hydrogen Europe and myself, teaming up together with the European Commission to create the Clean Hydrogen Partnership. We are developing a portfolio of clean, efficient, and competitive solutions based on hydrogen technologies in energy, transport, and industrial applications. We can move on to the next slide. This was also very well described today. So that's a partnership where each party will contribute. So 1 billion of contribution from the Commission and 1 billion of contribution also from the private member. So we have Hydrogen Europe Research and Hydrogen Europe. Within Hydrogen Europe, we have two types of membership that are relevant today, full members and project members, which is a new category. So non-members can join Hydrogen Europe as full members, of course, or project members in order to contribute to the success of the partnership and the hydrogen ecosystem as a whole, keeping the momentum that keeps growing and growing. We can move on to the next slide. Thank you. Brief overview of the Secretariat of Hydrogen Europe. So we are a team of 34 employees serving approximately 350 members. We have more than 100,000 followers on social media. On the left-hand side, you can see the breakdown of teams. So we have a policy team, 8 staff. Funding and intelligence and innovation is part of this team, 10 staff. IPSEI and the Clean Hydrogen Alliance, 3 staff, and operations, 9 staff, and we have 4 staff in the management. The vision is the following. We aim to propel global carbon neutrality by accelerating European hydrogen industry. And our mission, Hydrogen Europe is a leading organization representing European companies and stakeholders that are committed to moving to a circular carbon neutral economy. So Hydrogen Europe takes a natural role of being the spearhead of hydrogen industry to decision makers for hydrogen technologies and applications. And Hydrogen Europe supports and facilitates its membership in the transition towards a more sustainable world, so carbon neutral economy, while maintaining and developing sustainable jobs. We can move on to the next slide. So this slide has been presented by my colleague Louis. That's the very same slide because we are working jointly with Hydrogen Europe Research. I don't think we need to spend more time on this slide. We can move on to the next one. This one is an interesting one. So it shows you a glimpse of the services that you can expect from Hydrogen Europe, the association. So we are a trade association and we offer the classical services that you can expect for a trade association. You can see on the second and third column the services that are offered as our members that will pay a membership fee to be full member of Hydrogen Europe, but we also developed this project member category that is a free membership in order to attract even more stakeholders into the hydrogen ecosystem. And that could be, for example, end users that will not have a strong appetite for hydrogen just now, certainly not justifying applying for a full membership. So we wanted to offer this option of being a free membership, and we call it project member. You can see on the slide that all the services are detailed for each type of membership, and much more information is available on our website. So I encourage you to go on our website and discover a little bit more. Like any association, we of course have bylaws, and any members must comply with them. If you want to become a project member, you also need to fulfill one condition, basically, which is receiving funding from the partnership. If you have those two conditions, then you are very welcome to join us, basically for free, which is quite exceptional. So if you're interested, the procedure to apply is quite simple. All you have to do is to complete a form that is available on our website. And if you're interested in a full membership application, there is also all the detail that you need, again, on our website, and we are here to answer any questions, of course. So we hope to see many of you joining us, either as a full or a project member, and together we'll ensure that we contribute to a successful and impactful implementation of this third partnership, and at the same time strengthen our sector. We can move on to the next slide. Talking about sector, Hydrogen Europe is organizing a major event on the 25th and 27th of October 2022 in Brussels. You have a dedicated website, www.h2flagship.eu, and there is a dedicated mailbox. If you have any questions or if you are interested, feel free to contact us, and we will get back to you as soon as possible. Tickets are selling fast, so we encourage you not to lose too much time. If you have an interest in this flagship event, the presentation will be made available. You have all the details on this slide, and you have much more details as well on the dedicated website. I keep it short on this. I think that was my last slide. I remain available, of course, for any question you may have. Thank you very much for your attention. Thank you to the organizers for this excellent meeting. And Mirella, I pass the floor back to you. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Michael. Also to you, and again to you, Luis, for your short insight on the two associations, private associations and private members in our joint undertaking. Thank you very, very much. I hope with your presentation you also clarified the questions that were already put in the morning when we referred to you, and people were wondering how to become a member, about the membership. So I hope now everything is more clear. Otherwise, again, I encourage everybody to drop us a short message. We will get back to you, and I'm sure you will help us to answer to these questions. So thank you very much again. And it's the time now for the last presentation, where I would like to invite Miriam De Angelis to join us and to present to us the help, the support that the network of NCPs, national contact points. So there is a point or a person, at least in each country, that will support or could support any of you with applications. And Miriam will give us a bit of insights on that. Miriam, I hope you can hear me.
I can hear you very well.
So the floor is yours, Miriam.
Thank you very much. And as a first thing, in fact, I would like to thank the organizers for the opportunity today to present the national contact points system, which is, as anticipated, the support system that you all have as proposers when you need clarifications or any kind of help regarding the calls related to Cluster 5, including the clean hydrogen partnership calls. Let's move on to the next slide. First of all, a couple of words regarding my curriculum. I am the national contact point for Cluster 5 in Horizon Europe, and I was the national contact point for smart, green and integrated transport in Horizon 2020. I was the coordinator then of the European network of national contact point for the Societal Challenge 4. And I'm the current coordinator for the European network of national contact point for Cluster 5, which is supposedly kicking off in June 2022. Meaning it hasn't launched yet, but it will do so in a few months. Let's move on to the next slide. This is the breakdown of my presentation. I will show you the services that national contact points offer at the national level. A few suggestions regarding a good proposal preparation, but I will go very briefly through it since we have listened to very insightful suggestions and inputs from the previous speaker, which were very precious. And as the last couple of slides, I will anticipate a few details regarding the future NCP network, which is called Greenet. Next slide, please. Who are the national contact points? Next slide. Well, as you may have understood, national contact points provide guidance, practical information and assistance on all the aspects of participation in Horizon Europe. They are national structures, meaning there will be at least one person in your country that will provide such services. They are in all the member states, in the associated countries, as well as in many non-European and non-associated countries. On the Founding and Tender Opportunities portal, you will find the list of national contact points. Therefore, if you are in doubt, if you don't know who they are, you just browse the dedicated web page and you will find the contacts. National contact points give personalized support in the applicant's own languages. This is the reason why they are located in each and every country. And they are bound to the minimum standards and guiding principles set by the European Commission, including, and this is, I guess, kind of crucial for all the innovators out there caring for their confidentiality. They are bound to the confidentiality, so they cannot disclose the details of your proposal to other proposers, to other applicants. In Horizon Europe, just like in Horizon 2020, you may have guessed, national contact points are organized in networks according to the theme they cover. Therefore, you will have a network for Cluster 5, but there are other networks for Cluster 3, Cluster 6, so on and so forth. And again, stay tuned for the launch of Greenet in June 2022. Next slide, please. The services that we provide are disseminating and raising awareness about the Horizon Europe funding opportunities. Therefore, sometimes, as now, we participate in the Infodays promoted by the European Commission or the joint undertakings. And also we organize some events ourselves. So through the web page, the Greenet web page that will be launched after the start of the project of the network, you will find several raising awareness events or information events. We assist stakeholders in understanding the main features, novelties, and policy drivers of Horizon Europe. We provide guidance and training on proposal preparation rules, content of the calls, and such. And we support partner search and consortia building. Maybe some of you have participated in the brokerage event, which was organized jointly with Cluster 5 European Infoday back in February. That was organized by us as national contact points. And we will do so at every launch of the Cluster 5 calls, eventually also helping single applicants in find partners for the clean hydrogen calls. In fact, if you get in touch with your national contact point, they have some dedicated systems to either promote your competencies and expertises within the network, or to provide you with good suggestions in case you are looking for potential beneficiaries, for potential partners for your proposal. We support also proposal preparation in some cases, not in all countries. Some national contact points also offer a pre-screening service for your proposal. So they will read through your proposal and provide comments and suggestions for a better improvement. Next slide, please. And now, but again, I will be very brief. These are some of the MCP suggestions for a good proposal preparation. Next slide, please. The MCP guidance characterizes the whole process from the better understanding of the European policies behind the calls to the actual preparation of the proposals. As was mentioned, the calls of the Clean Hydrogen JU, they are inspired, they stem from the Strategic Research and Innovation Agenda of the partnership, which is a very well developed document where you will find the whole political and strategical context that is behind the calls, as well as the mission and the vision of these joint undertaking. Let's go to the next slide, please. Can you please click again? Good. And again, and again. No, back to the previous one. Okay. Never mind. We can summarize the process in approaching a certain call and in developing a proposal into these 5 steps. First of all, when you decide that you are interested in looking for a European funding for your project idea, my suggestion is to go and check, first of all, who are your your helpers. Who are your national contact points? Understand the national contact points in the area of your interest. Then either upon your NCP suggestion or because you independently went and checked the open calls, you select one and you read very carefully through it, since the text of the topic can really say a lot regarding the requests of the joint undertaking or the European Commission, depending on the call you are approaching. If there are certain aspects of the text of the topic that are not clear, discuss them with the national contact point, and we will find a way to provide you with the clarifications. Either by liaising with the JU, the officers at the JU, or the European Commission. Understand the policy drivers, as I said, because these will guide you in also better understanding the impacts that your proposal should have. Then build the project concept and the consortium. And only as a very last step, once you have everything clear, you go and write your proposal in a clear manner. Next slide, please. Well, as anticipated, this is the web page where you will find the national contact point for Horizon Europe. So next slide, please. Well, we have talked about the importance of reading the work program, the topic, the call very, very attentively, and understanding the way the topic is built may provide you an interpretation key to the text. And this is the reason why I want to show you how the topic is usually organized. There is a title, of course, there is a type of action. The type of action specifies the kind of activities that are to be performed, meaning whether you need to focus more on research, on certain technology readiness level, or more on demonstration activities, and therefore on a higher technology readiness level. This is a crucial point to clarify once you approach a call from Horizon Europe in general. Then you will have the expected outcomes. This part of the text specifies the positive effects that need to be generated by the actions, by the projects. And then we will have the scope, specifying the focus and the boundaries of the potential action. Be careful, because under this part of the topic, you can usually also find the specific conditions, some specific conditions that may apply regarding, for example, the consortium. There may be sometimes the encouragement to pursue international cooperation. In any other type of additional condition will be included usually under the scope of the topic. Let's move on to the next slide. As for the policy drivers, they were described very well, as I said, by previous speakers during this very interesting day, this very interesting event. I've just summarized a few information that you can anyway find under the Strategic Research and Innovation Agenda of Clean Hydrogen regarding the vision and the mission of this joint undertaking. No need to go through them again, since we are all very, very tired, I guess, So let's move on to the next slide. Building the best consortium. Well, if you, I mean, you may have understood that a good proposal is made by a good consortium, an effective consortium. In order to build the best partnership, you first of all need to know the rules, meaning the minimum conditions that apply for the calls. As you know, most of the topic have as a minimum conditions the requirement to build consortia made of at least 3 different organizations set in 3 different member states of the European Union, or 1 member state and 2 associated countries. Also, choose the partners carefully. Choose it on the basis of their accountability, of their competencies and expertises, of course, and both at the preparation stage, but also during the writing stage of a proposal, clarify their role. The evaluators don't want to see unjustifiably big consortia, nor extremely small consortia. They need to be the right size in order to cover all the requirements of the topic. Consider the experience and the complementarity, meaning when you choose a partner, it is preferable, but of course it's not mandatory to have a background history of participation in framework programs. And also, as for the complementarity, well, ideally, a consortium should be made of organizations with complementary expertise. You can start locally, but always broaden your consortium in order to include an international dimension, valorizing the local value chains can be useful, but be careful because any proposal in Horizon Europe should have an international dimension, should have a global impact. Explain why your consortium is the best, meaning it is not just a matter of building it, but also describing it in the proposal. Once you decide to become a coordinator, you should be aware that your responsibility, among your responsibilities, there is the overall planning of the proposal and building up of the consortium that will do the work. This will require a certain amount of patience, inclusiveness, and equity, let's say, in taking the decisions regarding your proposal. Can we please move on to the next slide? Now,
Miriam, sorry to interrupt you. I will have to, and apologize for that. If you could wrap it up in 2 minutes, we would really much appreciate. Thank you.
Absolutely. We have already seen the proposal template, so no need to go through it. Let's move on. Writing the proposal, well, be in the scope of the topic, demonstrate that your idea is ambitious and goes beyond the state of art. This is crucial, as in many cases we are approached by proposers that have a limited ambitiousness in their proposal. This doesn't mean that it is not valuable, but that maybe you should focus on different funding opportunities, not Horizon Europe and not the joint undertaking calls. Take into account the interdisciplinarity, gender dimension, open science practices, and so on. This is relevant. As interdisciplinarity and any other aspects not directly technical is also evaluated by the evaluators, by the experts. Show how your project could contribute to the outcomes and impacts described in the call. Described the plan measure to maximize the impact of the project, and some very interesting presentations were devoted to the dissemination plan and to the communication, as well as the exploitation activities, and demonstrated the quality of your work plan, resources, and participants. And again, this was taken into account in the previous part of the event. Next slide, please. Next slide again. This is the very last slide of mine. It is dedicated to Greenet, the network of national contact points. As I said, it will be probably launched in June 2022. The only thing that I would like to underline is that the network is going to build on the efforts of the previous networks that in the case of Cluster 5 bring together several histories, several backgrounds from CNRG 2020.
You have muted yourself, Miriam. Do you hear me, Miriam? Can you unmute? You are muted.
Here I am.
Okay, perfect.
The next slide. Can you hear me? Are my contacts. That's all from my side. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Miriam, a lot for your insights. And just again to the audience, you see how can I say, prepared all the NCPs are with our call. I am impressed, Miriam, the way you are already prepared and you did the analysis of all our documents and you are ready to support locally all the applicants. So again, to the audience, do not hesitate to contact the national contact points in each of your countries. You may feel more close to them and maybe in your own language to get our documents explained and to get help for preparing an application. And thank you again, Miriam, for your insightful presentation. Now, we have 15 minutes only left.